All right, let's talk about one of those movies that just grabs you and doesn't let go. We're breaking down the gritty crime thriller The Rip. And trust me, if you're a fan of tangled webs of lies, cops with questionable motives, and a heist that just goes so wrong, well, you are absolutely in for a treat. So let's get into it. So what's the hook? It's simple, but man is it effective. You've got a murdered police captain, you've got her entire team of detectives, and every single one of them is a suspect. And then you've got the secret that ties it all together. $20 million. Yeah, this isn't just about justice. It's about a life-changing score.
And right from the jump, the movie makes it clear how high the stakes are with this one line from Detective Numa. It wasn't a death, it was a murder. You can just feel the weight of it, can't you? This tells you everything you need to know. It's not just another case on the board for these guys. No, this is deeply personal. They're going to tear the city apart to find who did this, even if it means going against their own.
All right, so let's get into the first part of this whole mess, a detective down. This is where it all begins, with one event that sends shockwaves through the entire department.
Okay, so the movie opens, and bam, no warning. We see Captain Jackie meeting a confidential informant. Seems like a routine meet. But then, out of nowhere, she's ambushed. It is just brutal. She's shot, left for dead. But in those final moments, she manages to send one last crucial text message. And just after she hits send, masked men show up and execute her. It's an absolutely shocking way to start. And her murder, it doesn't just make waves, it sets off a ticking bomb. So, what happens next? Well, the aftermath is pure chaos. The FBI immediately takes over the investigation, and you'd think they'd be there to help, right? Nope. They walk in and look at Jackie's team, Dean, JD, Numa, Mike, and Lolo, not as grieving partners, but as the prime suspects. I mean, can you imagine? On top of all that, there are these persistent rumors swirling around about a dirty cop crew hitting cartel stash houses. And guess who the FBI thinks fits that description perfectly? Yeah, Jackie's team.
So this really sets up the central problem for these guys. I mean, think about it. The feds are breathing down your neck, convinced you're dirty. Who do you turn to? The only people left are the detectives in your own unit, the guy standing right next to you. But here's the terrifying question the movie asks. What if the killer is one of them?
Okay, this brings us to the next chapter of the story, and this is where things get really interesting. We're calling it the $20 million lie. The focus shifts from who killed our captain to something else entirely, a massive heist. And this is the point where the line between good cop and bad cop just gets erased. So John A., who is Jackie's number 2, he gets promoted to take her place. And almost immediately, he starts acting weird. He tells the team he's got a Crime Stoppers tip about a cartel stash house, says there's about 150 grand inside, a decent score. But then we see him tell his partner JD something different, that the tip was only for 30 grand. Right there you're thinking, okay, hold on, why is he lying about the number? That is red flag number 1.
So Dresno leads them on this raid. And it's not some rundown warehouse, it's this quiet, normal-looking house in the suburbs. The guy who lives there, DeCessi, he's practically shaking in his boots, but lets them search. They bring in the canine unit, and the dog just goes absolutely nuts, signaling at the attic. So they go up, start looking around, and behind a wall panel, they find these massive oil drums. And when they pry them open, it's not oil. It's just stacks and stacks of cash.
And remember that 150,000 Drano was talking about? Yeah, forget that. This wasn't even in the same universe. The final count comes out to over $20 million. Just let that sink in. This just went from a standard drug raid to something that could change all of their lives forever. The temptation is just hanging in the air.
The moment they see all that cash, Dreen's whole vibe changes. He looks at his team and says, money makes people crazy. And then, boom. He orders everyone to give him their cell phones. No calls, no texts, nothing. He completely cuts them off. Now, is he just being a careful cop securing a very unusual scene? Or is he isolating them so he can steal the money for himself? Because right now, it sure looks like the second one.
And from that point on, it's just a complete downward spiral. Dreen flat out refuses to call the chief and report the money. Then, one of the burner phones in the house rings, and the message is simple. Take the 150 grand and leave the rest, or you all die. It's an absolute pressure cooker. JD, seeing all this, is now 100% convinced Dreen is dirty. So he sneaks off and makes a secret call to his contact at the DEA, a guy named Nix, begging for backup, but it's too late. Seconds later, the house is hit by a full-on assault team, guns blazing, and in the firefight, one of their own, Detective Lolo, goes down.
So let's just recap what this looks like, right? The team is trapped, they're under attack, one of them is bleeding out, and they're turning on each other. And Dean? He's the one who lied about the money, he's the one who isolated them, he's the one who refused to call for help. I mean, all signs point to him being a criminal mastermind. But is he? Or is there something else going on here that we're just not seeing?
All right, get ready for the big reveal. This is Act 3. The trap is sprung. All those lies and all that misdirection, it's all about to make a whole lot of sense.
And here it is, the first huge twist of the movie. This whole raid, this $20 million, it wasn't Dean's idea. It was Captain Jackie's. Turns out, she knew she had a rat on her team. She'd been planning to use this very stash house as a giant piece of bait to lure out the dirty cops in her own unit. It was an incredible plan. But, of course, they killed her before she ever got the chance to put it into motion.
So, what about Dreen's bizarre behavior? Well, remember that final text Jackie sent? Dreen got it. He put the pieces together, figured out her plan, and made a choice. He was going to finish what she started. Every single thing he did, acting paranoid, lying about the amount of money, picking a fight with JD, it was all an act, a performance. He was trying to look as corrupt as possible to make the real mole feel comfortable enough to show their hand.
So Drone knew the mole had to be one of the people in that house with him. But that didn't explain the heavily armed assault team that showed up. The mole had to have a partner on the outside, someone powerful who was actually pulling the strings. So who was it? Who were the real villains?
The mole inside the tactical narcotics team was Mike. He'd been playing them all from the start, sending out those secret texts and feeding information to his partner.
And his accomplice on the outside, the guy orchestrating the whole thing, it was Nix. Yep, the same friendly DEA agent that JD called for help. He wasn't coming to save them, he was coming to kill them and take the money. We learned that he was the one who killed Captain Jackie in the first place because she was getting too close to his operation.
So, with all the cards on the table, how does this thing end? This final section really gets to the heart of the movie and its central question: are we the good guys?
Well, the ending is just as explosive as you'd expect. In the final shootout, the villains don't make it out alive. Mike and Nix are both killed. And the money? The FBI recovers every single cent of that $20 million. Oh, and DeCessi, the homeowner, he gets $4 million as an informant reward, which is not a bad payday. Most importantly, Dean and JD are completely exonerated. They cleared their names and got justice for Jackie.
But the movie doesn't just end with the action. It ends on this incredibly powerful, emotional note. We finally understand Drake's motivation, the meaning behind the tattoos on his hands. It comes from the last conversation he ever had with his son, who passed away. His son asks him, "Are we the good guys?" And Drake's whole dangerous, crazy plan was his way of answering that question, to prove, maybe more to himself than anyone, that yes, they are. They always will be.
And that's really what the whole story leaves you with, this one big question. Dreen had to lie. He had to manipulate his closest friends. He had to act like the very criminals he was hunting, all to get the job done. He had to become a bad guy to make sure the good guys won. It really makes you think, doesn't it? In a world that's so full of corruption, how far would you go? What does it really take to stay one of the good guys?